A very good evening and welcome to Eswatini TV's 8 p.m. news broadcast with me, Nondobego Ntsapkelogo. Let's take a look at tonight's headlines. The Minister of Tourism and Environmental Affairs says it is important for the Eswatini Women Parliamentary Caucus to be sensitized on climate change. Members of Parliament are unhappy about government's decision to halt the KISS joint venture. Members of Parliament say there is a need to probe into the misconduct and maladministration allegations perpetrated at the national broadcasting stations. The news in detail. The Minister of Tourism and Environmental Affairs, Moses Vilakazi, says it is important for the Eswatini Women Parliamentary Caucus to be engaged and sensitized on issues causing climate change so that they can make contributions towards improving the state of the environment. The Minister was speaking during the opening of the Eswatini Women Parliamentary Caucus Climate Change Awareness Raising Workshop.
The Minister of Tourism and Environmental Affairs, Moses Vilakazi, has declared the Eswatini Women Parliamentary Caucus Climate Change Awareness Raising Workshop open. The Minister says it is important to engage women on climate change issues as it is an issue affecting the Kingdom of Eswatini and different countries around the world, and that this initiative will provide a clear narrative on climate change issues which will lead to better development in the country.
We are gathered here today because of the decisive action taken by the women in Parliament, our decision makers, who express their hunger for knowing more on climate change and its impact. And their belief that knowledge is power is very profound today. As the focal Minister on climate change and environmental issues, we would like to applaud and commend this initiative, and we are hopeful that this national conversation will provide a clear and explicit narrative on climate change issues, leading to transformative national climate action and improved societal outcomes.
The Ministry, Eswatini Women Parliamentary Caucus, Mbabane Municipal Council and others then proceeded to Mbabane Selection Park to plant 25 trees that were provided by the India High Commissioner Radha Venkataraman. The chairperson of the Women Parliamentary Caucus, Princess Phumelele, says as women they are determined in being involved in activities that seek to improve the Kingdom of Eswatini.
Konke lokwendekako kube nempumelelo emhlabeni kuqala endlini kuqala ekhaya uphumele community bese ku-impacta even lonke thineke sibukele kokuthi nathi asingahlali nje sibungede sabonakala ligalelo lethu sisafuna nekwekuthi lokhu kwanya lokho sesibonelo nje salokukhulu lesiconze kukwenda siyafuna kubona nendlela yokuthi ibiti phela njani emakhaya emigwaqweni emimangweni.
The representative of the Mbabane Mayor Sabelo Makakula says the Municipal Council of Mbabane will continue in supporting the government in improving the state of the environment.
The international outcry nje indzaba yelitwatwasi ukuthi kunema international declarations nathi leso sawasayina njengelive so sibambisa nathi hulumende ngalelo hlangothi.
The planting of trees goes in line with the campaign launched by the Prime Minister for everyone to plant a tree, save the environment and combat the effects of climate change in the country. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Temalang Ndlamini with Muslim Konda in Mbabane.
Members of Parliament have not taken kindly to government's move to stop the KISS joint venture from continuing with the construction of the International Convention Centre and the five-star hotel in Eswatini. Members of Parliament say government has invested a lot of money in the project.
The Public Accounts Committee, led by its chairperson Philip Telezi, inspected the Mangane Old Age Home, which is currently under construction and almost complete. The team was welcomed by the members from the Deputy Prime Minister's office, led by the Principal Secretary Makosini Mdawe, who explained to the committee that the Deputy Prime Minister's office has funds secured and in place to continue with the remaining work. Mdawe says they were also financially supported by the Republic of China Taiwan on this project. Mdawe says this project started back in 2016 and it is almost ready to function with all in order as expected. The PAC chairperson Pilar Buthelezi uploaded the DPM's office for the job well done and asked the DPM's office to ensure that the elderly do not lack anything and they are taken care of with their needs and the structure is maintained accordingly. The committee also had something to say, mostly uploading the good work and shared their views.
Sicela ukuthi la ma-regulations kungadususa umsindo ama-guidelines say alokufaka labantu abadala abe clear sihlalo.
What is left is to carefully select the needy elderly to occupy the home. They will also have physiotherapies and also heaters for the winter season. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian MCB, Mangayane.
The story we have just come from is as follows. The Public Accounts Committee has asked the Deputy Prime Minister's office to ensure the smooth running and maintenance of an old age home in Mangayane, which is currently under construction. The PAC had gone to Mangayane to inspect the old age home. To continue with the news. Members of Parliament have not taken kindly to government's move to stop the KISS joint venture from continuing with the construction of the International Convention Centre and five-star hotel in Eswatini. Members of Parliament say government has invested a lot of money towards the project.
Before Parliament business of the day commenced, Lobamba Lomzala, Member of Parliament Maui Khumalo, rose on a point of order seeking clarity on the stopping of the KISS joint venture, which is constructing the International Convention Centre and five-star hotel in Eswatini. Khumalo submitted that Minister of Finance Neil Reckenberg was tabling loan bills while a government project which has cost taxpayers a lot of money has stopped.
But the thing that is also pretty at the end, yeah, we see voice in Parliament, the sing at least in the process of loans. But so bad, we know, we terminate. Now, more analysis are to achieve the international fastly equally. What happens to the profiles of the three companies that are mentioned in La Parusa Tanani? We are Mr. Speaker, with the Prime Minister, with Mr. Speaker, Minister. And as I'm telling the Parliament, is it the interest of the country? No matter interest, the decision.
Speaker in the House of Assembly Petros Mavimbela had to adjourn the House temporarily after there were technical problems. When the House resumed business, members of Parliament chipped in on the matter.
Mr. Speaker, Minister of Finance. Economic planning, especially a report in the near future, not today.
Attorney General Mashampu Khumalo advised the House on the matter.
Between Hulumende na KISS joint venture. There's pending litigation on the subject, on the dispute between the government and the KISS joint venture, Mr. Speaker. The
Speaker then ruled that the matter be debated no further, as the AG had advised that it was before court. For Eswatini TV News, Temgos Mavimbela, Parliament.
Members of Parliament say there's a need for a further probe into the allegations contained in a Parliament report on purported misconduct and maladministration at Eswatini Television Authority and the Eswatini Broadcasting and Information Services to test their veracity. The MPs say the report contains serious allegations to which some accused people have not responded to.
The House of Assembly about 2 weeks ago, and amongst other issues, it sought to investigate maladministration at the Eswatini Television Authority and Eswatini Broadcasting and Information Services. The report was debated by members of parliament on Monday, where legislators had different views on it. Some members of parliament were of the view that the report should be adopted with a few additional recommendations, while others were of the view that a further probe into the allegations was needed.
Witness B, ukhuluma ngomuntu lo shonile, ukhuluma kuleli committee leli. Liyathatha le committee dobhalela thina, alimfaki witness B. Liyamfihla. Then but liyamfaka ngokukhulunywa ngaye. So uthi ke mina ngisoletha report, anifanele ngivuma mina ukuthi khuluma ngala ngeke laphendula. But witness B must be hidden. Uhambisa umuntu ulethele umunye kuthi ayisolve i-problem ama vele it's an institutional problem. Because mawubuka Mr. Speaker, ngale kule lesinye phethe i-board, ngale kule lesinye kune minister. Kepha leti ngingathi yafanana. Leti test nje tiqove ipolitiki. Ngoba nawuva la kusola sile politiki. Simosha ngala simosha ngale. Because lapho khona khuluma khona minister oka ICT kusichaza lesimo.
At the time of compiling this report, the debate was still ongoing. For Eswatini TV News, Temgos Mavimbela, Parliament.
The National Disaster Management Agency in the country says Eswati who wish to be volunteers in the agency can now register through their website to work for the agency and assist people who might need help, especially during this period of the COVID-19 pandemic. This was said by the National Disaster Management Agency Communications Officer Wandile Mavuso.
The National Disaster Management Agency in the country has 1,200 volunteers. The agency says it is now open to people who wish to be volunteers to assist the agency in disaster emergencies which occur in different areas in the country.
Kukunel form lesesilibekile sing-NDMA si-encourage sive semaswati ukuthi basebenzise lelo form ba-register kuze ukuthi babe ma-volunteer a-NDMA.
The National Disaster Management Agency Communications Officer Wandile Mavuso urges Eswatini, especially those who are once employed in sectors which involve working with people, such as the health sectors, and others, to take part in being the agency's volunteers. Mavuso also advised Eswatini to ensure that they register to work in their different constituencies, as this will make their work easier.
Lokunye lesingathanza kukusho ukuthi siyacela ukuthi abantu ba-register kuleti ndzawo lala khona bahlala khona.
The National Disaster Management Agency volunteers play a huge role in responding to disasters by providing additional response through different skills and abilities which are of great help and assistance to those in need. For Eswatini TV, I'm Temalangen Dlamini with Muslim Konda in Babane.
The low payment of rates by Manzini residents has resulted in the municipality of Manzini not being able to successfully deliver services in Manzini. This came out during an annual general meeting with stakeholders that was held at the George Hotel in Manzini.
The Manzini Municipal Council held its annual general meeting with its stakeholders where they presented their performance for the year 2020. The council, amongst other things, prioritized health issues as they managed to inspect businesses and took off shelves food that did not meet the required health standards. The mayor, Jabushiba, says the low payment of rates resulted in them not meeting their demands and responsibilities as well as service delivery.
Fortunately for us, it set in when we were about to close the current the year under review, but we are going to see the effects of COVID, the full scale of the effects of COVID in the year that we are in now, which we'll be reporting on in the coming year. But even before COVID set in, we had challenges in terms of the performance of our economy, because it meant that our only source of income, which is rate collection, was not doing well. In fact, it was a line that was not performing very, very well. So that meant that even the project that we had set out to do as a municipality, we have not been able to then get to do everything that we had wanted to do.
The Director of Finance, Mfana Futimamba, highlighted how funds were used.
Our expenses were somehow able to contain our expenses. There was a drop of about 13.2% from 84 million the previous year to around 73 million this year.
Attendees also shared their views on the presentation.
There's a lot of alien, for lack of another word, of businesses that are not affiliated to any of these associations.
We can never say all is well. We are complaining about the potholes.
Amongst some of the municipal's challenges is the neglected plots with overgrown vegetation, which is costly for the town council to maintain. They also educated the residents on supporting SMEs and avoid negotiating prices, which results in business owners losing profit now and again. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian MCB, Manzini.
The police service, together with other stakeholders, met with Stegi business owners, specifically liquor traders, to speak about the COVID-19 regulations that govern the sale of alcohol following its unbanning. Superintendent Vusi Ngwane says it is important for the liquor industry in the region to adhere to the laid-down procedures.
Following the Prime Minister's statement on the unbanning of alcohol with effect from the 26th of October, members of the police service, together with other stakeholders, met with Stegi business operators to go over the guidelines set by the government to ensure that they do not let their businesses spread the COVID-19 pandemic. The Stegi Station Commander Superintendent Vusi Ngwane says it is important for these business operators to be well aware of their regulations. He says the main reason for the meeting is that they are able to work smoothly together with the business operators. Boniso Makakula from the Ministry of Commerce emphasized on what is expected from the business operators. Makakula says they do not expect to see businesses selling alcohol on weekends.
Kuzelela nje kakhulu ukuthi babhekekile ukuthi basebenze kuleti khathi letibekiwe lokungu9 o'clock till 5 p.m. Lo Monday to Friday nokuthi ngema weekend akusasetshenzwa etshwala buthengiso. Naloko ukuthi le social distancing la ikhathi emabhizinisini iqhubeke imaintainwe. Naloko ukuthi itshwala abusathengiswa unathe uhlale phasi.
Mandla Mahlalela, one of the business operators, revealed their fears. He says that as they sell alcohol, they are worried that they might again be asked to shut down, for they have heard that the country is about to undergo a phase 2 of the COVID-19.
Phase 2 wale COVID lengathi uyahlongota kuveta kuphakamisa inhloko njengemamba. Kithi ke thina lesithengisa lotshwala namuhla nje sijajuliswa ukuthi siyavula. But asathi ukuthi ingabe njengoba phela siyakubo December sifuna ukusitokha nanasi sitholakala ukuthi isime ku position ukuthi vele sitawukhona ku recover njengoba besolosmile. Ingabe government yena asathi ke lokuthi akunosenda yini nakulokwendeka nga June July.
The Chief Executive Officer of Stegi Town Council says it is humbling to see the meeting because it is a sign that people from Stegi are willing to work hand in hand to ensure that the COVID-19 does not spread. Reporting for Eswatini TV News is Tembeli Makuja with Temba Shabangu at Stegi.
In our sports news today, the Football Association has presented football regulations that should be followed by teams as they return to action for the 2020-2021 season. The regulations were presented by the chairman of the medical committee in the association, who says, among other regulations, playing fields will be fumigated after every match.
The Eswatini Football Association of Eswatini has presented the COVID-19 regulations manual that is supposed to be followed by teams as they return to action so that they may be safe from the coronavirus.
After each match, sanitize the players and all the possible maybe infection which might happen. Make sure what I am there. You remember the strategy. If you can eliminate. So that is what we are trying to do. If we see reducerless cards, that means employing more people. So you know what you never clean the entrance market, you never clean the dressing room, the toilets. We should remember my toilets. The media, the city we are going for after game, maybe your interview. Those things, they need to be cleaned. All those things. So then you reduce time, you increase the manpower.
Association's Vice President Comfort Shong, who is the chairman of the medical committee, presented the manual to members of the media. Some of the regulation includes that teams should start by testing for the virus before they start training, and that applies to referees, and they will also have to screen each player every day before training. Goalposts will also be fumigated during warm-ups, before the start of the game, at half-time, and also after the game. In case of a double-header, the same procedure will be followed with a break of an hour or less. Fans can only be allowed to return to stadiums next year if the condition will have improved. Teams will also be required to follow certain set of rules as they travel to the stadiums, including facing away from each other while traveling and also keeping the windows open at all times. Teams have already received the manuals and many of them will be starting training this week, and some have already started. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizo Msibi. Lobamba.
The Premier League of Eswatini Chief Operation Officer Petros Vilagati says teams should not hide players who will show symptoms of COVID-19, as that may result in them being suspended from playing and further fined a certain amount. Vilagati was speaking after receiving equipment to help teams as they return to training.
The Premier League teams are preparing to restart their training in preparations for the kick-off of the 2020-2021 season that will start in November. The Football Association promised to help teams with equipment that will help the players avoid getting COVID-19, which has since delivered to the Premier League. The Chief Operation Officer of the Premier League, Petros Vilagati, says teams should not hide any players that will show symptoms of the virus.
The club shouldn't hide if any player is not feeling well or showing some symptoms that is not okay, so that that player will soon be attended. We are very much aware that amongst the equipment we have given them, we are giving them a design form where daily they will be checking these players, and each and every player should have a record, a weekly record of how he has been behaving health-wise. Then those records will be used during weekend's game to see if the players are well fit for the game. What we request is the honesty, that they shouldn't think that because this player is a very important player, we should hide the records. Otherwise, there are sanctions for doing such for all the teams. So some of the sanctioned teams will end up losing games. Some of the teams are in monetary terms, like summary fines. They will be fined if they break the rules that will be laid down.
Vilagati says they will be moving around clubs looking if they are following the regulations put in place by the Football Association and government. Each team will receive 50 face masks, 2 thermostats, and 25 liters of sanitizer. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizo Msibi, Mbabane.
And that brings us to the end of our news bulletin. But before we wrap up, let's take a quick recap of the headlines. The Minister of Tourism and Environmental Affairs says it is important for the Eswatini Women Parliamentary Caucus to be sensitized on climate change. Members of Parliament are unhappy about government's decision to halt the KISS joint venture. Members of Parliament say there is a need to probe into the misconduct and maladministration allegations perpetrated at the national broadcasting stations. Eswatini, that is all the news we had for you tonight. Up next is the weather forecast. Good night and God bless.
At Build It, you can do it with the ultimate workhorse. So load up at Build It and you could win one of 10 Nissan NP200 Buckies. Plus, over 380 Stanley toolkits up for grabs. Hurry, promotion ends 14 November. Build It.
All I really want this season, la 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 la, is to win a brand new Bucky, la 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 la. At OK, they've got all the savings, la 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 la. Come to OK, fill your trolley, la 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 la. And you could win a Bucky too. 10 Buckies up for grabs.
OK, owners you can count on.